So that shiny new game just came out, Steel Wakes the Deep, and you want to know if it's worth your time, right? Well, let's take a look at the game for some first impressions. Keep in mind, this is not a full review, this is a quick look at the game. I played for about an hour and a half, so I'll show some footage of the game while describing it and giving a few thoughts on it. This game, I'm mixed on. And here's why. First, I downloaded it on Game Pass. However, the Game Pass version of the game does not have DLSS or FSR. Apparently, only the Epic and Steam versions have that. I spent like an hour or so trying to get my game to both run well and look decent, and I really couldn't. I then went to Steam, got the game, and in the settings turned on DLSS. That made a massive difference. Without DLSS, the game's performance is just not good. So on Game Pass without DLSS, I was on 1440p, all settings on medium, and I was getting 70 to 80 FPS with a 3080 Ti. I even had the resolution turned to 80%. Now the FPS wasn't the problem was that the game looked terrible and that the 1% lows were not that good. And then on top of that, my recording software kept messing up. On Steam, with a mix of high and epic settings, DLSS unbalanced, the game looked much better, and my FPS was now 80 to 100 with better 1% lows. And my recording software was smooth. The Game Pass version was irritating to deal with, but anyways, onto the actual game now. From what I can determine, this game is pretty short, like really short. I'm talking 4 to 5 hours is what it's looking like. On top of that, the game is linear and there's no exploring. The short length of the game, plus the Game Pass version having limitations, is what makes me mix on this game. Everyone is Scottish in the game, so they speak with accents that could be kind of hard to understand sometimes. One odd thing I noticed is that the subtitles didn't match a lot of the words that they'd say. As for the story and gameplay, it's pretty decent. The game takes place on an oil rig near Scotland. You play as Kaz. There's actually not a whole lot of story or backstory in the game, but in the time that I played, I learned that he did something illegal. I think he fought someone, and that the police want to talk to him, and then he left his wife to go on an oil rig for a bit, and that's all I know up to this point. As for life on the oil rig, well, he's fired literally to begin the game. When he walks to the helicopter to leave the oil rig's giant drill causes a massive disaster, and Kaz falls off the rig, but he wakes up to people saving him. At this point is the real meat and potatoes of the game, survival horror slash walking simulator. The drill drilled into something weird, and now people are becoming infected with it. They're either being killed outright or being taken over, their bodies becoming a grotesque and malformed fleshy thing. There are phones spread throughout the ship, and I took a lot of calls of people dying or trying to coordinate escape. You'll be crouching or running through various locations with creatures chasing you. One by one, each escape route was no longer possible until the leader, the one who fired you, told everyone to get to the helicopter ASAP. However, he ends up not waiting at all and leaves, only for their chopper to crash anyways. At that point, my new mission was to start the generators so I could use the radio to call for help. I got off the game while doing this mission, so that's where my knowledge stops. There were several points of me running through hallways or tight spaces while being chased, and I actually felt the pressure. I really did not want to get caught. The atmosphere of those times is pretty well done. Then there was a part where a giant creature was walking around and I had to sneak by it. I wasn't really nervous for that one at all, honestly, and I died a lot to that thing because it kept spotting me over and over. That part wasn't really scary or anything. There wasn't any weapons in the time that I played. It's not that type of game. There were things that you could pick up and throw to cause distractions, but that's it. You mainly just escape over and over. All in all, the game is decent, even with my complaints I had. I'd say the biggest limiting factor is just the game length, which can be a huge deal breaker to some or not a problem to others. My time spent on this game was fine. It's a decent game, but it's nothing you haven't seen before. Though that's my personal opinion. Whether or not this is your type of game, I'll see you on the next one.